So they say that time heals all wounds, but does it really? Or does time just mean that you've pushed the wound back down into the recesses of your unconscious mind, where it's just waiting for another opportunity to rear its ugly head? And what is that wound that you've shoved deep into your unconscious mind? Because there really only is one wound, and it's the wound that the entire seemingly physical world is based upon. And it's the wound that we act out in our infinite ways of suffering in this insane world. And it's the wound of separation and the guilt, the fear, the shame, unworthiness that all stem from our mistaken belief that we turned our backs on God, on ourselves. So how much are you willing to forgive? How far into your unconscious mind are you willing to go? Because that really is the only place that you can find yourself, because who you are has been covered over in a layer of fear, guilt, shame, and unworthiness. And the only way that you can uncover yourself is by forgiving all of that. And you do that by forgiving everything that arises in your experience. And to forgive is to remember the unreality of it. But if we are holding inner hatred, guilt, and fear, which we all are, then you need to use your experience in this unreal world to learn and to show you where you are holding it. And what you're really learning is where you need to look in your unconscious mind. So the only way to do that is by using the symbols in your experience. And anytime that you feel any kind of suffering, that's exactly where you need to look, because that's showing your own self-denial and where you've hidden yourself from yourself. And so I'll just give you an example from my own experience. So I recently said to someone who I wrongly perceived to have hurt me, "How could you have so much hatred for someone that you say that you love?" And so the process for me, and your process might look different. As you more and more forgive, you learn to work with your inner teacher, and your inner teacher knows the best process for you. But this is just an example of my process. So my process seems to be that I have guilt for allowing myself to be affected and to then say something in return. But then I notice that I have that guilt, and I accept that I have that guilt, and then I realize that nothing really actually happened, because this world is an illusion. It's just a symbol. It's just showing me where I need to look, and it's showing me my own guilt, and that guilt stems from me believing that I separated from my source. And as that never really happened, there's really absolutely nothing to be guilty for. Therefore, I'm forgiven, as is the other person. But that's just one part of it, forgiven. So then if we look at what was said, why do you have so much hatred? So if everything is a symbol and everything is a projection from my own mind, then who has that hatred? I do. And it's the hatred I feel within myself for the perceived belief that I separated myself from God, from who I am, and I created this absolutely insane world in order to bury God deep inside of me and to hide from God, to hide from myself. But then once you realize that and you accept that you have that hatred and you allow it, you're no longer denying it, then you can release it to the inner teacher who will correct that mistake. And because that separation never really actually happened, and that I've just been fooling myself this entire time, that there is nothing to forgive. So therefore, I am forgiven. I am wholly innocent and always have been. And you just keep doing this process over and over again with everything that arises in your experience that causes any kind of discomfort or suffering, until you can forgive everything as yourself, including the forgiveness of time. Because time has no reality, and time is part of the illusion. And when you can forgive time, then you're really standing at the gates of heaven. and you get a glimpse through the door, and that glimpse is enough to know exactly who you are. And it's enough to know that your journey is almost complete, because the journey never happened and time never really existed. And if time never was, then it's always been done. You're already home and you never left to begin with.